And I always wanted to do a horror film set in a cave. It's the classic environment, and you know, horror films are best set in the dark, and you can't get any more dark than this.
6 feisty, fearless women
who are all friends and share a passion for climbing and the outdoors. One weekend, they go on an adventure together down a cave.
Here's to our adventure.
As they descend further and further into this cave, things start to go drastically wrong.
They get lost amongst this sort of labyrinth of tunnels.
And this is when we found out that not only are we in the wrong cave, we are in a cave that nobody knows about.
And you see the fracture of the friendships and the fracture of minds.
What it is about is descent into madness and physical descent into the depths of the earth.
And just when you think things can't go more wrong, they can.
I just saw something ahead in the tunnel. Discover that they're not the only people in the cave, there's something else. These other beings that don't really want them to survive.
And we still haven't figured out which way's out. Don't tell anyone, but the dark scares me. I'm so cool.
Things going towards my eyes or things being put in my eyes frightens the life out of me.
When I was reading the script for this film, I read it in the summer. I was laying in the garden, beautiful sunshine, wearing my sunglasses. Got to halfway through the script, hairs were going up on the back of my neck, and I had to go inside and stop reading the script.
Good God.
Squished and clean. It's unbelievable.
What scares me? Wasps scare me.
I'm not really afraid of anything physical. I'm not afraid of heights, really. I'm not afraid of spiders or anything like that.
Spiders and women and spider women. Get that.
I think anything that's set in a house scares me the most because I'm in a house. If I saw this film, it would be okay because I don't generally go caving. Or even the Blair Witch Project, I don't generally go camping, so I can deal with it. But anything where there's things in a house, I freak out.
Horror films are a lot of fun to make and a lot of fun to watch audiences watching. You can hear the fear, you know, you can hear the gasps, you can hear the jumps and the screams and the laughs and all that kind of stuff that you get when you're watching a horror film. It's a very audible reaction that you get.
I actually went to the cinema a few nights ago with Neil and Sam, the director of photography. We went to go and see The Grudge, which is great movie, and they were sitting either side of me and loving it, and I was just avoiding it, and I was, oh my goodness, and Neil kept on poking me because I was shaking.
Jaws would be probably my favourite horror.
American Werewolf in London, because I watched that as a kid and just thought that is tremendous.
Boringly, The Shining.
It's one of my favourite films, so The Shining, without a doubt.
What's that? Murder spelled back. I've thought about it for the last 3 days and I still can't come up with a definite one.
Be The Thing, which was pure spectacle or prosthetics.
Evil Dead 2.
It's probably completely not objective, but it's definitely Dog Soldiers.
Yes, yeah. I'll ask you what your favourite, because I don't watch horror movies, what your favourite horror movie was?
Of my favourite horror films and the films that have inspired this more than any other, I'd have to say Deliverance, which although isn't technically a horror film, is pretty scary. Alien and The Shining. Each dealing with aspects of this film in different ways. Shining about somebody going insane. Alien about atmosphere and menace and dark spaces. And Deliverance about the idea of an adventure trip that goes wrong.
It's so inspiring how much love and passion he has for film and especially horror. When he talks about it, he becomes like a little boy just talking about the gore.
Put the shits right up the audience eyes.
He finds them hysterical, really funny, and I just went, oh, that's a different way of looking at it.
And Mark. And cut there. Cut there. Super. I think there must be a dark streak running through me, but I just love scaring the pants off people. Ever since we conceived the script idea, there's been a kind of running joke that this film is 6 chicks with picks.
I'd seen Dog Soldiers and I loved it and I wanted to work with Neil. And once I'd read the script, I just thought it was interesting to have an all-female cast.
Which in an action horror film was quite unique.
7 weeks, really intense filming, all female. And I thought, oh, well, this is gonna be interesting.
I confess that I went into it cautiously, having worked with a pretty much all male ensemble cast on Dog Soldiers. But at the end, we've managed to achieve that same atmosphere of collaboration and a good sense of fun, but also a good sense of professionalism, and everybody's just mucking in.
You know, to be honest with you, it's such an ensemble thing, you know, cast and crew together. So much of the crew's male, so it balances it out.
I think you do. I think it's like it's something for Susie.
And the crew are brilliant, absolutely wonderful, and that's working really nicely and having a great time with them.
Look at this bunch of tossers.
No.
It's just really like having your little gang with you the whole time.
No.
Because we are very friendly. We had to bond really quickly. We were doing climbing the first week of knowing each other, where you're holding the rope and you're basically, you know, your friend's up there on a wall. Your friend you've known for half an hour is up on the wall, and you've got her life in your hands.
We learned basic climbing techniques and how to abseil and use a harness and rig up ropes, which is really exciting.
I went down with them and did my first bit of abseiling and things like that on a waterfall, and it was great. But it's not something that I do as a pastime.
And we did a lot of research. We went caving to various caves in the UK to try and get stuck in tiny small spaces and to be in awe of the huge spaces.
Oh my God. We went caving in Derbyshire. It was really good fun, just kind of getting used to all the equipment.
Doing a lot of upper strength exercises, a lot of pull-ups and hanging there for a bit, which creates massive respect from guys in the gym, I can tell you.
I was actually saying to one of the girls on set, you know, it's you knowing how to grab parts of the wall. I'm so glad that we had that training, because you could feel quite clumsy and it is quite dangerous.
As long as I look up, I'm fine. Just don't look down.
So we did a course of climbing, we did whitewater rafting training.
Did you enjoy it?
We went real caving underground and just generally kept fit.
This isn't a film production at all. It's actually a subverse training program for the CIA.
For my character, I had to chop my hair off. I was down there. It was a bit traumatic for the first week or two, but it's cool.
I didn't really prepare mentally. I just prepared what I thought the journey of the character was going to be, and it's quite dramatic, the change she goes through. It's almost it's not really a full circle, it's more of a spiral.
Almost always when I start working on a character, I start writing a diary as the character. So one thing which for me was very important with Rebecca is very, very, very safety. Safety first, so always look around and see which things could possibly be dangerous. See how are people around you doing? Do they look like they could be flipping out or not?
You know, I have done this before, you know.
I'm only looking after you.
And I appreciate it.
in small doses.
So to get into that thing and make that natural, kind of spend a few days, a few weeks, really annoying your friends, going, checking them out the whole time.
Don't try and justify this. What do you mean? What does it mean?
Oh, wait a minute. You filed a flight plan with Mountain Rescue. If we don't report in, they'll just come looking for us.
Yeah, that's how it's supposed to work, except I filed a plan for Borum Caverns, and this is not Borum Caverns, it's a Juno.
These girls are game for anything, and on screen they're just mind-blowing. They're a really, really solid bunch, and it's been a dream to work with them.
He knows his movies big time, and I'm a complete nerd when it comes to movies, so it's been good.
This is Russell Crowe, apparently.
He sets a great example, showing people that you don't have to shout or be forceful in order to get the work done.
Because, you know, some of the scenes are really quite horrific, and you've got to make them believable, you've actually got to be experiencing these emotions. And he's been really patient and always given us space.
Encourages coming to set with an open mind about things, even in terms of the dialogue. And sometimes I find that frustrating. In other situations, I find it frustrating when you get new lines on the day, or why don't we try it completely different to how it's written. But in this experience, it's been really enlightening, actually, and lots of fun.
Yes, Shona, whatever you say, okay. Close up, okay.
Good.
It's not improvising. It's maybe a bit more ad-libbing, but it's sort of thinking of all the possibilities you could play the scene in.
He's very collaborative, absolutely knows what he wants, but is confident enough, I guess, in his abilities to actually, you know, take the best of everybody's contributions.
I remember him saying that he wasn't interested in us playing one-dimensional characters.
Come on, Jessie, it's freezing. Let's go back to the car.
And I think in horror, it's very easy to do that because, you know, horror can easily be rely heavily on a formula. And he really allowed us to, you know, flesh these characters out, give them lots of different levels, give them a backstory, and we really worked hard on those backstories.
So I think we would have taken the normal safety procedures and kind of worked out roughly what the route is. And I think if Paul is there, he also could be there because they have had an affair. There's all that other stuff that. I don't know, that's just, I always read it, that's how it was.
The first draft of the script was a lot more sort of caricatured, that the women were a bit more sort of stylized and slightly unrealistic.
You know, the script is relentlessly linear in terms of, you know, we never revisit anything, it just keeps moving straight forward, and I think the environment through which the characters move has stayed pretty much the same.
The action hasn't really changed at all, the actual story progression and the physical action, you know, that happens within it hasn't changed at all.
Draft one, there was a cave entrance, and they abseiled down, and then they went down the sinkhole, what's it called? Can't remember what it's called.
And that's down the pipe.
Yeah, well, I can't remember what that space is called, but they moved through basically exactly the same physical spaces in the first draft as they're going to in the film.
Yeah.
The other side.
Yeah, you come up, hand on the rock, right hand on the rock, you know, look to where Sarah's gone, but she's gone. And then you hear the screaming behind you, so then roll back over again to that side, look back there, and then hold yourself out and take yourself back. But the characters have just gone from strength to strength and become much more real and more human. And it's just been a question of just adding layers to them. I call it the flaky pastry principle.
And I find it fantastic that we can explore those metaphors in such a tactile way. I think that is something that is missing from a lot of art nowadays.
For me, as an Asian actor, one of the key things was that it wasn't written as an Asian character. It was an opportunity for me to play a really well thought out character, which was very full.
Sarah, I haven't had a chance to say that I'm really sorry I didn't stay around longer after the accident.
And that, for any actor, is like a real blessing. You don't come across those sorts of characters very often.
Each character has some kind of a highlight moment. And of those moments, I love it when the character of Holly gets angry. And she starts off as very happy-go-lucky, and then at a certain point she gets angry and she flares up.
Don't try and pin this fucking shite on me!
It's really, really fun to play, and she dies horribly. I shouldn't really say that, should I?
I love the fact that Sarah and Juno go a little bit mental, and when they get into the physical action, things get pretty interesting there. from its original conception, I envisioned this film as being very, very dark, both in tone and, you know, in visual style, which is to make it as dark as possible.
When you think it's dark, when you turn out the lights, well, down there, it's pitch black.
Neil's produced a beautiful script that really helped. It was very easy to see the kind of the flow of the spaces, the caves, large, big, huge spaces, going down to little tiny spaces.
What's great on the sets is that you can actually allow yourself to sort of give life to that panic that, you know, you do feel, because if you're in an enclosed space, you do feel that claustrophobia and you do feel that fear. But when you're actually in a caving situation, you can't really give life to that fear, because being panicked obviously is hugely dangerous.
Action.
Whoa! It's something where if you start thinking about it, it's freaky, so you just don't. Because you know that if you would think about it, if you think about masses and masses and masses of bricks above you, you go a bit mad, but just kind of don't.
Quite a few members of the crew are claustrophobic, and they've been shuddering when they go onto some of the stages and see the spaces that the actresses have to crawl through.
My boob's going to fit. It was a challenge. I had to sort of concentrate on breathing when we were doing the caving.
Action.
I'm a big sissy. I can get my head around most things. The dark does scare me because I've got quite a vivid imagination.
I just want to ask you about the vagina. Sorry, I mean cave. Are you impressed with it? Does it conform to your specifications?
It's a lovely, tight crack. What can I say?
Tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock, the slime is arriving to lubricate the cave with.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cute. What do you think of the vagina?
The vagina's fantastic.
Yeah, we can reposition it as well, and if anybody gets it up.
I mean, tell me what your line is in this scene.
What, going through the large vagina?
Yes.
I get to yell, what is it? Oh yeah, it's a tight crack, but I can make it.
What I love about this kind of stuff is that you just kind of throw this stuff at it. You just like come up with these daft ideas, you put it in it, and people can just like read whatever they want into it. Be my guest.
There's quite a lot to read into it.
Fine, be my guest. It's just there.
Do you mind if you've got?
Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. I didn't want there to be any like real gratuitous light sources in this caves. I mean, it's proving a problem as we're filming it to suddenly think, well, how are we actually going to light this scene because they've only got, you know, a box of matches on them. So right, well we use a box of matches. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we use a box of matches. Toward the end of the film, though, they start setting things on fire, and it gets a bit easier for us.
Action.
We had a few different ways of creating the caves. Some of them were moulded, so we took moulds from real existing cliff faces, like the one behind me, which was a real hard slate structure. And other caves were more dribbly, kind of with stalactites, kind of calcium deposits. We've got a little, dressed in little wax stalactites, so when the girls coming in, they're showing their torch around the space, the little wax stalactites backlight, and they should light up nicely. We used the same material, same foam, spray. We just used it in different ways.
You actually have to kind of see them to believe them, because they're these really realistic caves and alcoves and tunnels which suddenly open up into these huge sort of rooms filled with the most amazing stone architecture, and it's all a form of polystyrene, which is just mind-blowing.
Simon's done a fantastic job in the production design, but we do have a problem of not having enough money to make the set stretch throughout the whole story.
We were looking at building a very expensive tank made of metal and big and robust, and people were talking about how many gallons and tons of water it was going to take. So to make it simple, I just said, why don't we just shoot it in a bath? Created a system where we're revamping the caves, so we're only basically building 6 caves, but changing the look through colour and texture, so adding stalactites, maybe making one of them wet, one of them very dry and dusty. So we're hopefully fooling the audience into thinking that the cave system is much bigger than what we're actually building. Yes, we've reused the wall, the back wall. On the entrance chamber, it was very kind of flat, and all the striations in the rock were very horizontal. And then for the cathedral cavern, we've hoisted up that side. 8 foot to make the striations run diagonally to hopefully change the look of it. Also on the entrance chamber we had lots of plants growing on it and water pouring down it. The cathedral cavern was very dry. This time it's very wet. We covered it in lots of stalactites to change the look of it.
It's great to work with because although you're surrounded by crew and cameras on sort of several sides, you can sort of just turn your face slightly and it's as if you're actually in a real cave. And you get the same sense of claustrophobia that you get when you're caving.
For the Bone Dam set, we had only, I think, 4 days to revamp it from one set, which was the Cathedral Cavern, to the Bone Dam.
Right, now we can start again.
It involved basically laying down a 50-foot square tank. I wanted the set to be very wet, so there's like a 1-inch tank of water covering the floor, and applying all these big stalactite structures and these big columns, kind of looking like it's made of a calcium deposit of some sort. It's really weird, and you're not really sure if the towers are made of bones themselves. And then we had 500 bones made, dressed in around the floor as if they'd been washed up against the structures. It looked pretty good. It's big.
Action!
And you know, they've done a sterling job in ripping sets apart and putting them back together in a different order to make a new set. And that's sort of become a slight challenge now, but because they're so good at what they do, it's not that much of a problem for me. It's a 5p rule.
What's that?
Preparation prevents piss-poor performance.
If we'd have had more monies, let's say, we could have done a few shots differently. We've built big sets on this production, but there are some shots that we could have gone further back and back and back and seen a huge, amazing space. We are extending some of the sets using visual effects, so we're doing matte paintings to make them feel larger than they really are. But it would have been nice to have built bigger sets. Next time.
We're doing all the creatures,
Human beings. That's a good idea. So all the boys.
1,000 bones that we manufactured, all the prosthetic violence towards the humans.
Really?
All the dead animals, 2 goats, 2 sheep, 2 cows, giant elk. I made this last night, pretty much overnight, ripped it up, carved it from a tree. Neil wanted maggots on the giant dead elk we made. I have an absolute phobia against maggots, and that's one reason I didn't go to Scotland to film the giant dead elk scene, is just because I just can't deal with being anywhere near maggots.
Bit icky.
Don't touch it.
You wouldn't want to pick it up.
What do you think did that, Sam? A bear? What is this? Nature detectives? Could have been Bigfoot for all you know. Come on. Stop poking it with a fucking stick. Let's go.
Seeing how the prosthetics guys work, and that is incredible. I didn't realise how much time and effort goes into that.
Human prosthetics, basically, all the girls get something, apart from Sarah.
Before we started filming, I came in and I did a full body cast. They've just put it in mould and just made a full prosthetic of my body for, obviously, when I'm dead and throwing me down a pit.
In there is mascara, not eyelashes. And basically that, I won't do it now, but that clips onto that, which is a cast of her waist upwards. And what we do is put a layer of wax inside, close them, put a plastiline pour. Yeah, we get a smooth wax body out, which we sculpt all together. And then, yeah, go from there.
It's really bizarre. It's not nice at all, actually. It looks really real. But your arm's like twisted sideways and stuff. Yeah, a bit odd.
Oh, hookers! Who do I throw it at? Where's Billy?
We have Sam, who gets her throat ripped out. That's a prosthetic, which is a throat piece which will go around her neck, and a plug which is put in, and this will all be coloured to her, and her throat literally gets ripped out and blood will gush out.
You look gorgeous.
Juno will get her leg stabbed. Paul, at the start, gets a scaffold pole through his head.
Action.
Show me in the face.
Made a head for that. And Holly gets her neck ripped out.
I just had a neck piece just wrapped around with the pump. It was a gusher. And that was quite fun.
As well as a compound fracture to her leg.
The scene where Holly breaks her leg is actually quite horrific.
Everybody grab a corner. We need to move her out of the water, okay? Okay. Nice and easy now.
It was just a slip-on prosthetic of my leg, bones and ligaments, and basically a pump, blood pump.
This was the actual prosthetic which was used on Holly, which basically is a silicone skin, which was just a slip-on, and we had some bone pieces which would go in, and basically there was blood tubing coming each way, which would just bleed and bleed and bleed. And as Sam tries to push a bone in, which it would just slip in like that, blood would just absolutely gush out.
No! Just keep fighting down, baby.
It was brilliant. Just trying to do something a bit different, which hasn't been seen before.
Magnificent performance. Bravo.
They're cavemen who didn't leave the cave, and they've evolved in this environment over thousands of years. A community of them live down here as families, and they thrive in this underground environment. They've lost their eyesight.
Hello.
They have acute hearing and smell, and they're expert climbers, so they can go up any rock face, you know, and they function perfectly in the pitch black, and that is their world. And these girls infringe upon their world, and the crawlers are simply defending their territory.
The inspiration for the crawlers came from Neil, who was very definite about it.
What a lovely creation here.
He wants some of your log.
I'm going to tease him with my log.
He was sort of saying that basically he wanted them to have a slight influence on Nosferatu. We wanted to sort of have a slight vampiric design, but not looking like a vampire.
Can I take these out?
Oh, they come out?
It was just the idea of, like, if you were going to have these creatures living underground, what would they be? Where would they come from? And elements came into the story of, like, finding a cave painting as if it was, you know, prehistoric cave painting. And I thought, well, okay, so cavemen, what if they were cavemen, and what if they were actually more human? Because to me, making them more human makes them more scary.
What did you see?
A man. I saw a man.
Are you sure?
Yes! And it's not the first time. I thought I saw someone before, but now I'm sure. Look, if there is somebody down here, then maybe they can help get us out.
He gave me a Photoshop design that he'd done. It was really good, but originally it had huge eyes, and we'd done a test which wasn't really what we all wanted.
Fire starter.
So we basically kept working on sculptures and making it smaller, more human, and went with contact lenses and gave it more human quality.
Where would you like me? Jolly good.
And it would have taken about 4 weeks to lock down the final design that worked better as a prosthetic.
What's your back like?
Pull me off.
Oh, you fucker! You've got.
Oh, you scared me. What an all.
Oh my god, that was brilliant.
Your turn.
If a Klingon and Spock had a child, and it was totally hairless, and a bit shorter and quite sinewy, and was cousins with Gollum. That's basically what a crawler looks like.
It's like the natural born smoker, a weedy, scrawny, horrible, dangly thing.
We wanted to sort of cross between a creature that lived in a cave, but with a slight sort of change in their bone structure and their spines, and almost like they've evolved one stage into a bat.
These creatures have these fantastic ears, which have been created, which is how they survive and move around. Their ears are their main sensory part. I met met Neil a few years ago through a friend, and he invited me to work on a short film with him called Combat, which was just fantastic, and everybody just jumped in there and done that for a weekend. And then he invited me on to Dog Soldiers, which was tremendous. And then this came up, and he said, look, come and be a beast.
Craig Conway and Les Simpson are my actors of choice, that they have been in every film that I've made one way or another. And it was pretty difficult to get. It was like, I'm making an all-female ensemble film, where am I going to get them in? Then it occurred to me, like, what if they play the crawlers? And I wasn't sure if they'd be up for it, but they were well up for it. But I also wanted to use them as crawlers because I wanted actors rather than, say, dancers or whatever to play the part. I wanted to bring something to the crawlers.
That's because I was brought up in the art of ballet.
I think you just got to have imagination and a bit of an excitement for doing something that's out of the ordinary. And you allow all of the circumstances around you to create the illusion of the character within that.
It's not organic. Because the makeup that they have allows them to express themselves fully, both physically and facial expressions.
Do your movement with your forehead. It's complete silicon movement.
That's wonderful.
To let yourself go in something like this, you have to trust your body, and although you have to be conscious of what you're doing and choreograph certain things, there just has to be a sense of freedom. I think that's exactly how you can confidently pull off being a beast.
Putting actors in those suits is just, the best of both worlds.
Papa's got a head like a ping pong ball. Papa's got a head like a ping pong ball.
Papa's got a head like a ping pong ball, ping pong, ping pong ball.
Ping pong, ping pong, ping pong, ping pong, ping pong, ping pong, ping pong ball. Ping pong, ping pong, ping pong, ping pong, ping pong, ping pong ball. Ping, ping pong, ping, 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 king dong.
It's fantastic to play this undercover actor. I can go on, do what I want, and create something which I hope is entertaining and frightening and a bit off the wall, and then I can sit back and know that nobody on this planet is going to go, oh, that's him. He plays that beast. And that's great for me, because I like the kind of anonymity of it all. It's nice.
I'm out of here.
To make up a crawler every day was about a 3.5-hour job. We'd come in, start with the face, and then basically put the contact lenses in.
Can you see all right?
Yeah. No problem.
No.
That's good. Raw.
Teeth in, and then full body paint job, which would take about 2 hours.
In order to apply the makeup and the veins and the prosthetics, we've all had to shave every part of our bodies, which is rather embarrassing.
Oh, not at this time.
Why not?
It's too early.
Why not? Why?
You come in. Yeah, he's a bit sort of.
Is he naked?
Yeah, we're doing his nads and stuff.
Originally it took about 5 hours to be made up.
So it's 7:10 when I was picked up this morning. It's now... What time is it? It's now 3:25.
But now they've dropped that down to 3.5 hours. So it's somewhere between 3.5 to 4 hours. And then throughout the day, there's constant touch-ups.
Basically, we tried to give them all a distinct personality. There's one that's called Scar, who gets sliced, and he was a real vicious, nasty creature, so we sort of gave him these lip pieces that pulled down his lips, almost like a dog snarling, that he always had that sour face. Females, we gave them a slightly witchy, sour look, rather we didn't want any good-looking girl crawlers, so they're all ugly.
I can still see that it's me. I saw a picture of myself. What? It's different when you're looking in the mirror, but when I saw a picture of myself, I could still see my face.
And the rest of them just had little sort of quirky, different shaped ears. Some looked angrier, some looked a bit dopey.
I made a deliberate point of keeping the crawlers away from the girls. I just wanted to see what the effect would be.
Action!
I think I found the way
through! It's been very mysterious. We haven't been allowed to see them at all until the scene.
I was saying to the girls, I said, I feel like I'm actually, making a drama, because we hadn't come across the crawlers and they come into the film quite late.
We knew he was around, sort of on location, and we kind of, some of the girls would kind of be hiding out, seeing if they could kind of catch a glimpse of him.
Well, it was bloody good for me. I got closer to the women than I've ever been before. Didn't quite get my teeth into them, but they did make me drool at the mouth, so to speak. Wonderful.
But I actually think it was a really good idea.
Because it did build up an anticipation and adrenaline.
Sorry, that was...
shoving him in that hole
That
we're
was,
about to go.
that was his arse,
Are you
mate.
putting him in the hole? Look how hairy. Please don't.
Put who? Hey.
Are you happy to walk?
What do you want to know?
No, I gotta wait.
What's behind the wall?
There's a crawl outside. Happy to walk.
Not that
Maybe.
type of this one.
There's a car outside.
Did you read your script?
It was me.
Did you read your script?
They were getting really, really nervous about meeting the crawlers for the first time. They didn't know what to expect. They hadn't seen any pictures, they had no idea what they were going to look like.
I don't think love is going to blossom from this meeting. I can't imagine. It's like your worst blind date ever, isn't it? I mean, imagine if this fucker turned over your door.
They just scared the living daylight out of me. We were supposed to stand still. I was screaming at the other side of the room within 3 seconds.
They just snapped. They went running off into the dark screaming. They built, for weeks, they'd been building up this image of being these really hard-ass, tough as nails girls. As soon as the crawler shows up, it's hands in the air and running away like a big bunch of pansies.
Oh, fuck it! Hello! Please! Is there anybody there? No,
When you first come out, people go, oh, right, that's interesting. But because it was in the scene, the girls were expecting something and didn't know what to expect. And of course, you arrive and they get a shock, and you kind of get a shock as well. And it was just brilliant. It was fantastic to be hidden away from them, and a lot of fun.
And fighting them is a whole nother thing. It was actually really difficult because I was fighting a man. I was like actually wrestling a guy, and that was hard work.
Action. There, that's it, yes. There, good. OK, hold it there.
And fighting on that sand, it was like glass, just cutting your skin.
So whenever we crawl about on all fours and fight on the floor, everybody's getting lacerated, and it's burning, and it's taking our skin away. Soon we'll all look like crawlers permanently.
I had beautiful skin before I came here. I was almost offered a modelling contract with Clinique. But now look at me. I've gone to wreck and ruin within days.
But at the end, I was sort of like, wow, yeah, you did that, girl. Good on you.
In you come,
Hopefully the audience will find them creepy. That was one thing that I wanted, was that they'd look at them and go, really be creeped out, because they're quite nasty, horrible-looking things. No hair, sinewy, sort of gaunt. Just hopefully to be a bit creeped out by them, basically.
I'm absolutely over the moon with the way that the crawlers have turned out. They're incredibly physical and virile and fierce looking, but and their colouring and everything, and it's all to do with being in the pitch dark. And what's your worst nightmare underground? And meeting these guys is pretty much your worst nightmare.
The worst part of working on this film is, without a doubt, being very cold and very wet and very tired.
Just being cold.
Getting so filthy that you need about 2 showers. Your social life kind of doesn't exist when you're doing this film.
The cold water. Lying in cold water.
I wouldn't wish that on anyone.
How long it takes to shower all the muck off at the end of the day.
Having to perform scenes with great passion while being freezing cold down to the bone.
Sometimes at the end of the day, you've got tears and blood and all this stuff all over your face, and you kind of just looked in the mirror and just went, did I do that?
But it's been wicked. So, so good. Such a love.
I normally don't like shooting very much. It's sort of stressful and busy, and lots of things can go wrong. But it's been a real pleasure working with this bunch of people for the last 7 weeks.
The best part of working on this film has been the people, without a doubt.
Going to Scotland and doing whitewater rafting.
The people, really good fun. I've had such a laugh.
Stop, please. Okay.
The best thing is to see kind of, a friend making a film and actually being on a set with a lot of people that I know, and seeing everybody giving a lot of effort towards making it a good movie.
Every day of the shoot, it's just been a blast. Something's happened, something funny.
How about this?
You know, something spectacular. There's been a great stunt, or you know, just some great dramatic sequence or something like that. Things just falling into place along the way. Start thinking about what I'm going to do next, because I want to be on another film set by Christmas, in an ideal world. Because I can't get enough of it. It's just the best job in the universe, and I've loved every second of it.
Neil's always got some, like, a little twist in what he does, and I think this one just doesn't stop. It's a bit relentless and a bit off the wall, and Neil's just got a magnificent imagination, which I think that's what this film is. It's an exploration of his mind, and I don't want to be in his mind because it's scary.
No, I think that's good enough. Good enough.